My name is Margaret Allen, and I'm 74 years old. To most people in Charleston, I'm just the old lady who runs the little herbal tea shop on the corner, always ready with a smile, a warm cup, and a few words of advice. They call me Grandma Maggie, even though many of them aren't related to me by blood. To my neighbors, I'm a woman who lived a quiet, ordinary life. They see the wrinkles on my face and assume they come from age. They don't know that each one carries a story of sleepless nights, of hidden pain, of secrets too heavy to tell. If you had met me 10 years ago, you would have said I was blessed. A widow, yes, but still strong and working as a seamstress, raising my only daughter Rachel after my husband walked out on us when she was just 9. I built my life stitch by stitch, thread by thread, never asking for handouts, never complaining. I gave Rachel everything I could. I told myself that if she grew up kind and responsible, then all my sacrifices would be worth it. For years, that belief kept me going. When I suffered a stroke at 62, I thought my world was ending. My right side was weaker, my balance unsteady, my independence slipping away like water through my fingers. But Rachel, my beautiful, strong Rachel, stepped in. She told everyone, "Don't worry, I'll take care of my mother." She took care of me my whole life, now it's my turn. The neighbors adored her for it. They praised her as the perfect daughter, the one who never left her mother's side, who sacrificed her career and social life to give me the dignity of staying at home. People whispered about how lucky I was, and I believed it too. I told myself God had given me a second chance, that even though my body was weak, I still had the blessing of a daughter who loved me enough to carry me through. But let me tell you something about blessings. Sometimes they're just masks. Masks that hide monsters you can't see until it's too late. Behind the doors of my home, behind the drawn curtains, my life became something no one would believe. The daughter I had raised, the daughter I had trusted, the daughter I loved more than life itself, slowly became the very reason I prayed every night not to wake up the next morning. People thought Rachel saved me. The truth is, she destroyed me. The day my life changed forever was a Tuesday in early spring. I remember it so vividly because I had just finished hemming a wedding dress for a young bride from town. She'd hugged me and said, "Thank you, Ms. Allen. You're a lifesaver." I smiled, waved her off, and went to brew myself some tea. But before the water could boil, the world tilted sideways. My right arm went numb. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. I collapsed to the floor, my teacup shattering beside me. The last thing I remember before the darkness swallowed me was the smell of chamomile and the faint sound of my clock ticking on the wall. When I woke up in the hospital, Rachel was there. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. "It's okay, Mom, I'm here. You don't have to worry about anything. I'll take care of you." And I believed her. The doctors said it was a mild stroke. I'd survive, but things wouldn't be the same. My right hand wasn't as strong. My steps were shaky. Everyday tasks, cooking, bathing, even buttoning my blouse, became battles. That's when Rachel took over. At first, it was love in its purest form. She moved into my house without hesitation. She cooked my meals, reminded me to take my medicine, helped me bathe, even massaged my weak hand every night to keep the stiffness away. When neighbors visited, they praised her endlessly. "Rachel, you're such a devoted daughter. Your mother's lucky to have you." And I agreed. I would look at her with tears in my eyes and whisper, "I don't know what I'd do without you." But slowly, her care began to change. The first time I noticed it was when she answered the phone for me. "It's just your church friends," she said, hanging up before I could even reach for it. "You need rest. I'll tell them you're not up for visitors." I brushed it off. Maybe she was right. Maybe I did need rest. Then she started opening my mail. "Bills, junk, nothing important," she would say, tucking things away before I could see them. When the nurse from the rehabilitation center came for my checkup, Rachel stood by the door like a guard. Later that evening, she told me, "Mom, we don't need strangers poking around. I'll handle everything." And the nurse never came back. Her words were always gentle, but there was something behind them. A firmness, a finality, a tone that said, "This isn't up for discussion." And I, weak, grateful, terrified of being alone, obeyed. I told myself she was only protecting me, that her decisions were in my best interest. But sometimes, when I caught my reflection in the mirror, I didn't recognize the woman staring back. I wasn't Margaret Allen anymore, the strong seamstress who built her life with her own hands. I was just Rachel's mother, helpless, dependent, and somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, "This isn't care. It's control." But I silenced that voice. Because what else could I do? The first time I realized I hadn't stepped outside in weeks, it was already summer. I used to love walking to the corner market, even after the stroke. I'd shuffle along slowly, cane in hand, but the fresh air gave me strength. That summer, though, I hadn't felt the sun on my skin once. "Mom, you don't need to go out," Rachel said whenever I mentioned it. "It's too hot. You'll get dizzy. I'll get whatever you need." It sounded reasonable. She always had reasons, always. But soon, those reasons became walls. One evening, Mrs. Peterson from the church knocked on the door. I could hear her cheerful voice calling out, "Margaret! We miss you at Sunday service." I tried to get up, but Rachel was quicker. She opened the door only a crack. "Mom's resting," she said firmly. "She's not up for visitors." I heard Mrs. Peterson hesitate, then sigh. "Tell her we're praying for her." The door closed. I sat in my chair, staring at my useless legs, listening to the muffled sound of footsteps fading away. "Why didn't you let me talk to her?" I asked. Rachel's smile was tight. "Because you don't need stress. Friends don't understand what you're going through." "I do. Only me." That became her mantra. "Only me." She stopped answering calls. My phone disappeared one day, and when I asked, she said, "You kept dropping it. It's safer if I handle it." The church letters stopped arriving too. Mail came, but I never saw it. Rachel would open envelopes in the kitchen, then tuck papers into her drawer. "Bills, just bills," she'd mutter. The outside world faded. My friends, my church, even the kind nurse who used to visit, all of them vanished. And still, I told myself Rachel was protecting me, but her words began to change. If I asked for something, a short walk, a visit, even just to open a window, she would sigh dramatically, her hand pressed to her forehead. "Do you know how much I sacrifice for you? Do you know what my life would be if I wasn't stuck here taking care of you?" Her voice would grow sharp. "Without me, you'd be rotting in a nursing home begging strangers to feed you. You'd be nothing without me." Those words cut deeper than any knife, because a part of me feared she was right. The days blurred together. Rachel controlled when I ate, when I bathed, when I slept. Sometimes I caught her watching me with an expression I couldn't name. Not anger, not love, something colder. Something that made my skin crawl. I wanted to tell someone, anyone. But who? I had no phone, no visitors, no proof, and slowly I began to doubt myself. Maybe I was ungrateful. Maybe I didn't deserve better. Maybe this was simply the price of survival. But late at night, when the house was dark and silent, I would press my trembling hands together and whisper into the shadows, "God, if you can hear me, please don't let her be right." It started with the food. One morning, I asked for oatmeal, something light, something warm for my weak stomach. Rachel slammed the bowl in front of me so hard the spoon rattled. "Eat what you're given," she snapped. It was leftover pizza, cold and greasy, sitting heavy in my chest with every bite. When I tried to push it away, she leaned close, her breath hot against my ear. "Do you know how expensive food is? Do you know what I sacrifice for you? You'll eat every crumb." And so I did. My hands shook as I forced it down, tears blurring my vision. Next came the medicine. She stopped handing it to me at regular times. Some days she'd forget entirely. Other days, she'd toss the pills into my lap and sneer, "Figure it out yourself." Once, I asked why. She tilted her head, smiling that cold smile. "Because I like watching you beg. It reminds you who's really keeping you alive." Her words crawled under my skin like insects. The punishments followed. If I asked to open a window, "You're ungrateful." If I requested to call a friend, "You're selfish." If I hesitated to finish a meal, "You're useless." And then the shouting wasn't enough. The first time she struck me, it wasn't with her hand, but with her words. So sharp, so venomous, they cut deeper than any slap. "You ruined my life the day you gave birth to me," she hissed. "You should have died instead of Dad." I remember gasping, clutching my chest, as though her words had struck me physically. But a week later, her hand did. A sudden, stinging slap across my cheek for talking back. The shock of it left me frozen. My daughter, my baby girl, had hit me. I wanted to believe it was a moment of madness that she'd apologize. But she didn't. She just smirked. And the next time came easier for her. Nights were the worst. She'd turn off the lights and leave me in darkness, whispering from the doorway. "I wonder if anyone would notice if you disappeared. I wonder if anyone would care." Her shadow stretched across the wall like a monster, swallowing me whole. Sometimes she'd pace around my bed, circling like a predator. Other nights, she'd stand completely still, staring, her eyes two burning coals in the dark. I'd lie there, heart pounding, too terrified to close my eyes. The bruises, the hunger, the loneliness, those I might have survived. But it was the words that broke me most. Without me, you are nothing. You are my prisoner. You'll die here, and no one will even know. And the most painful of all, I wish you had never been my mother. There were moments I thought about ending it myself. The pills, the knives in the kitchen, even the stairs that seemed steeper every day. Anything to escape the cage she'd built around me. But every time, something held me back. Maybe it was fear of what would come after. Maybe it was the faint hope that God hadn't forgotten me. Or maybe, just maybe, it was the stubborn ember still burning inside me. The voice that whispered, "This is not how your story will end." It was a Sunday afternoon. I remember because Rachel was in one of her good moods. She blasted music through the house, humming along as she cleaned, her voice sharp and false, like broken glass against stone. But then she came into my room. The smile dropped. She threw a plate of food onto my bedside table, half the soup spilling onto the floor. "Clean it up," she ordered. I reached for the napkin slowly, my hands trembling. My arthritis made it hard to bend, hard to kneel, hard to do anything quickly. "Too slow," she hissed. Her hand caught my arm, yanking me hard enough that I cried out. My body hit the floor and the sharp pain shot through my hip. I gasped, clutching at the carpet. Rachel towered over me, her face twisted with something feral. "You think you can make me wait? You think you can make me serve you like some queen? You don't deserve any of this." Her words rained down like blows, but then came the real one. The back of her hand cracked across my cheek. The sound echoed in the silence between us. For a moment, the world tilted. I stared at her, my face stinging, my breath caught in my throat. And in that moment, something inside me broke. Not my body, not my spirit, but the silence I'd carried for so long. "Stop it." The words burst out of me before I could stop them. My voice was hoarse, but it was loud enough to make her freeze. "Stop it, Rachel. I am your mother." My voice shook, but I pressed on. "I gave you life. I raised you. And now you treat me like garbage, like a prisoner. I won't let you anymore." For a second, her face faltered. Shock, then rage. She crouched low, her face inches from mine. "You won't let me?" She spat. Her hand gripped my jaw so tight I thought she might crush it. "You don't get to tell me what to do. You're nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing." Her eyes bored into mine. But for the first time, I didn't look away. Pain burned through me, fear churned in my stomach. But I held her gaze. Somewhere deep inside, a voice I thought I'd lost whispered, "Fight back." That night, I lay in bed, my face throbbing, my body aching. But my mind was alive. The words I had spoken, small, desperate, trembling words, replayed over and over. "Stop it. I am your mother." They were the first real words of defiance I had spoken in years. And though they had cost me dearly, they lit a fire inside me. I realized something. If I didn't find a way to escape, if I didn't fight, Rachel would destroy me piece by piece until there was nothing left. That was the night I made a vow. I didn't know how. I didn't know when, but I promised myself, and God, that I would break free, even if it was the last thing I ever did. After that night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rachel's face, twisted with anger, looming over me like a shadow I could never escape. But underneath the fear, something new was growing. Determination. I started paying attention in ways I never had before. The sound of her car keys in the morning, the exact time she left for work, how long she stayed at the grocery store. I kept track of everything. Rachel thought I was broken, too weak to notice or fight back. But I was watching, listening, waiting. One afternoon, when she left to run errands, I carefully opened the bottom drawer of her desk in the living room. That drawer had always been locked, but a few days earlier, I had seen her leave the key in her jacket pocket, and I remembered. When I opened it, my heart pounded so loudly, I thought it might echo through the whole apartment. Inside were envelopes stuffed with money, bills, receipts, even a second cell phone. That's when I realized the truth. Rachel wasn't just cruel. She was hiding things, living a life I knew nothing about. I didn't take anything, not yet. But I made a mental note. This is where she keeps what matters to her. If I ever get a chance, this is where I'll strike. My second step was even riskier. One morning, while she was in the shower, I sneaked into her room and wrote down the number from her main cell phone. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the pen, but I managed to copy it onto a scrap of paper I hid under my mattress. I didn't know exactly why I was doing it. Not yet. But something told me that having her number could give me power one day. At night, when Rachel slept, I whispered my plan into Whisker's fur, the only one who truly listened. "I'm going to get us out," I told him, running my fingers through his soft orange coat. "I don't know how yet, but one day we'll be free." The cat purred, curling against me, as if promising to keep my secret. The hardest part was pretending to still be broken, pretending to still be silent, pretending to still be afraid. Rachel thrived on control. If she thought I was slipping away, she'd tighten her grip. So I gave her what she wanted: obedience, submission, silence. But inside, I was building something she couldn't see: a map, a plan, a fire. And then came the opportunity I'd been waiting for. One afternoon, Rachel stormed out after another fight with her boyfriend, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled on the wall. She was gone for hours, for the first time in years. The apartment was quiet, truly quiet. I stood in the center of the living room, breathing in that silence like it was the rarest treasure on earth, and I realized this was my chance. That evening, after Rachel's furious exit, the silence in the apartment was deafening. For a long time, I just sat there on the sofa, my heart racing, waiting for her footsteps to return, waiting for the sound of the key in the lock. But minutes turned into hours, and the longer she stayed gone, the braver I became. I gathered my strength, pulled on my old sweater, and slipped into Rachel's office space. The bottom desk drawer was there, locked as always, but this time I was ready. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a bent hairpin I had been hiding for weeks. My hands trembled so badly it was almost impossible to focus, but desperation steadied me. Click. The drawer opened. Inside, the same bundles of cash, the second phone, and a stack of letters I hadn't noticed before. My breath caught. They weren't bills, they were warnings. Past due notices, legal letters. Rachel was drowning in debt. She had been using me, my retirement checks, my small savings, to keep herself afloat. I felt sick, but I didn't have time to dwell on it. I stuffed a few $100 bills into my bra, grabbed the second phone, and closed the drawer again. I knew I couldn't just walk out the front door. Rachel had neighbors watching, people she had turned against me with her lies. If they saw me leave, they might tell her. So I chose the back, the fire escape. I opened the small kitchen window and pushed the rusty frame upward. The icy wind hit me like knives, but I didn't care. Freedom was on the other side. I lifted one shaky leg onto the sill. My heart hammered against my ribs, so loud I thought it would echo down the street. Step by step, I made my way onto the iron stairs, clutching the railing for dear life. For the first time in years, I was outside without her. The night sky stretched above me. The streetlights glowed. A couple walked by, laughing, their joy like a cruel reminder of everything I'd lost. But then I smelled it, the cold air, the city, the scent of life beyond those walls. Tears blurred my vision. I was so close. I made it down one flight, then another, my joints screaming with every step. My body was weak, but my spirit pushed me forward. At the bottom, I slipped into the alley, clutching the second phone in my pocket like a lifeline. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know who I could trust, but I knew one thing. I was free, or so I thought. I hadn't made it more than 3 blocks when I heard it. Her voice. "Mother!" Rachel's voice, sharp and venomous, cutting through the night like a knife. I froze. My blood turned to ice. I turned slowly, and there she was, standing under a streetlight, her eyes blazing, her chest heaving as if she had sprinted to catch me. The bag of groceries she had dropped lay forgotten on the sidewalk. Her gaze locked onto me, and in that instant, I knew I hadn't escaped yet, not even close. Rachel's eyes glowed under the streetlight like a predator who had cornered her prey. Her voice was low, but sharp enough to slice through me. "You think you can just walk away from me? After everything I've done for you?" The words stung, twisted with that cruel guilt she had used to control me for years. But this time, they didn't pierce me the way they used to, because this time, I had something she didn't expect: strength. "I'm not your prisoner, Rachel," I said, my voice trembling but loud enough for the passing strangers to hear. "I'm your mother, and I'm done being afraid of you." Her jaw tightened. She took a step toward me, her heels clacking on the pavement like gunshots. "You ungrateful," she hissed, raising her hand. But before she could strike me, I stumbled backward into the light of a nearby storefront. People inside turned to look. For the first time in years, witnesses. Rachel froze, realizing eyes were on her. The mask slipped. She tried to twist her face back into something sweet, but her fury leaked through. "You're embarrassing yourself," she spat through gritted teeth. "No," I said. Louder now, my chest heaving with decades of pent-up pain. "I'm telling the truth." I yanked the second phone from my pocket, holding it high. "She's been abusing me," I cried out, my voice breaking. "I need help, please." Heads turned. Doors opened. 2 men walked outside, their faces etched with concern. A woman pulled out her phone to call the police. Rachel lunged at me, trying to snatch the phone, but one of the men stepped between us. "Hey, lady, back off!" For the first time, Rachel wasn't in control, and I felt free. The police arrived within minutes. My words tumbled out between sobs, my story pouring into the cold night air. I told them about the years of silence, the control, the financial manipulation, the threats. They believed me. Rachel screamed, cursed, called me a liar. But the evidence, the hidden money, the second phone, the scars she couldn't erase from my body, all of it was enough. They put her in handcuffs as she thrashed and spit. Her perfect facade shattered, and I just stood there, trembling, tears streaming down my face, watching the woman I had once called daughter taken away in the back of a police car. The next morning, I woke in a shelter for women like me. For the first time in a decade, I slept without fear. The scratches on my arms were still there. The memories were raw and jagged, but the chains were gone. I was free. Years have passed since that night. I'm older, slower, but stronger than I ever thought I could be. Rachel is gone from my life, and I have rebuilt my world, one small piece at a time. But every time I see a woman walking with her daughter, every time I hear laughter that isn't poisoned with cruelty, I remember what I survived and I whisper to myself, I didn't break. I broke free.